Our story begins on the 8th floor of the tower in the Plains of Extinction, where a group of warriors has gathered. A massive army marches in unison through the snow, bracing themselves for the challenges ahead. Leading the charge is a young blond man, seemingly the leader of this grand expedition. He addresses his soldiers, rallying them for the impending battle. Kazuki Kyojo, the master of the Blue Zone Guild, announces that they have joined forces to defeat the guardian of the 8th floor. He warns everyone to remain vigilant, as failure now would make reaching the 9th floor impossible. Just then, amidst the crowd, a familiar face emerges. The leader of the Blue Zone realizes who has arrived for the fight. It was the Blue-Eyed Guild, led by their enigmatic masked master, Subunukami, who makes a commanding entrance. Subunukami, the master of the #1 guild and our protagonist, appears quite pleased with the arrival of his friend. He greets Kazuki with a wide smile. Our hero apologizes for his tardiness, but Kazuki reveals that he was actually the first to arrive. A soldier mentions that the Miram Alliance is also joining the battle, but they likely intend to scavenge the aftermath. Hearing this, the masked man instinctively raises his weapon, ready for any potential threats. However, our protagonist hands Kazuki a glowing ring, leaving him bewildered by the situation. The ring, the Archangel's blessing, has the power to restore fatigue. Kazuki is astounded by the gift he has received. The Blue Zone leader acknowledges that the masked man would also need the ring, but he prioritizes the mission's success. Our hero then invites Kazuki to return to Blue Earth after the battle concludes. He assures Kazuki that the blonde can return the ring once they have returned home safely. At this moment, Kazuki becomes emotional and gives a small, grateful smile to his friend. Our protagonist expresses his willingness to keep the item if he doesn't want to return home with him. Suddenly, a massive tremor shakes the ground, causing the two to go on high alert for whatever is approaching them. The Blue Zone leader announces that the monster has arrived, and he was not expecting it to appear so soon. The earthquakes intensify as the guardian of the 8th floor finally emerges, terrorizing all the warriors. Kazuki then commands all his soldiers to prepare for the impending battle. The creature reveals itself to be a sea dragon hydra, with multiple heads and razor-sharp teeth. Our protagonist looks at the grotesque beast and curses it, disgusted by its hideous appearance. A dark energy begins to emanate from the masked man's hand as he feels a shiver run down his spine. Lightning courses through our protagonist's body as he declares that today will be the creature's last. With a furious gaze, the creature stares down the warriors, ready to unleash a massacre. The Hydra opens its mouth and prepares a powerful breath attack to annihilate the army. Kazuki desperately pleads with everyone to take cover, but our hero stops him, stating that there's no need. He then charges forward alone at high speed, directly into the creature's attack without a hint of fear. With a swift and precise movement, our protagonist prepares to slice the Hydra's attack right down the middle. The masked man unshaves his sword and delivers a single, decisive strike, resolving the entire situation. A wave of dark energy crackling with lightning effortlessly cuts through the creature's attack, splitting it in two. The Hydra's attack is deflected, narrowly missing the sides of the army, leaving them stunned by the scene. Kazuki looks on, impressed by his friend's strength, and acknowledges that he's always surprising everyone. The guild members celebrate, and a redhead expresses his desire to be the first to attack the creature. A female companion inquires about the item given to Kazuki, but the masked man remains enigmatic about it. With determination, our protagonist inquires if his team is prepared for the impending fight. He declares their mission to defeat the dragon and overcome this nightmarish floor once and for all. The Blue Eyes Guild confronts the multi-headed Hydra, gearing up for the final confrontation. Meanwhile, Kazuki observes from a distance, admiring their team's unity and strength. In the distance, the Miram Alliance prepares, and one of its leaders reports that the soldiers are positioned as planned. Kazuki hears the report and suggests they commence their assault on the creature. A hooded man agrees, and another member wishes them success in the upcoming battle. A young man named Toshiya watches the proceedings with a serious expression. As the Blue-Eyed Guild prepares to engage the formidable Hydra, they charge forward, unleashing a barrage of attacks. The Hydra roars in fury, ready to retaliate. A girl leaps into action, but her partner complains that she neglected to inform anyone. With a wild glint in her eyes, the masked woman readies her dagger to pierce the creature's thick hide. She attacks with speed, exclaiming, "This fight will be a breeze for them to handle." Another member uses ice magic, expressing his stress about the situation. With a wicked smile, Tushia challenges a teammate to determine who can inflict more damage on the monster. He unleashes a powerful attack with a sinister red aura, striking the mark. His blonde friend accepts the challenge, preparing to strike as well. He declares that the loser must buy dinner, launching an attack with his blue energy blades. With that, the hooded blonde attacks the Hydra with his blue blades, slicing into the creature with full force. The impact sends a female companion flying, and another man apologizes to the healer, Chino. The girl reassures them not to worry and instructs them to continue attacking while she prepares a spell. With that, Chino conjures a large pink shield and tells them to leave the defense to her without fear. One of her companions calls her name, concerned about the tense battle situation. Suddenly, Kazuki appears behind her with a sinister smile and asks if she can block this attack. The healer is in shock, frozen as she realizes what's about to happen. The traitor then stabs the woman in the back and declares that their problem is their overconfidence. Witnessing the betrayal, our hero becomes furious and prepares to unleash his full power against the blonde. The poor girl collapses to the ground, gravely wounded and unable to comprehend the reason for the surprise attack. The traitor stands there, looking down at the woman's lifeless body with a satisfied smile. Our protagonist's eyes glow with an intense blue light, reflecting his rage. Kazuki, with a grim expression, warns that this is not the time to look away from the main battle. Our hero is incredulous and questions why he committed such a senseless betrayal. Suddenly, a mysterious message announces that he has been chosen by the tower for a special mission. The order was to climb the tower and prepare for the impending arrival of the beginning. This was the first message from the tower that appeared simultaneously to all players. No one knew if it was a test or a blessing, as the truth remained a great mystery to everyone. Undeterred, they followed the irresistible command and embarked on the journey to reach the top, a place that no one had ever achieved before. Warriors from various worlds, including Earth and Maram, joined forces, each with their own mission. Years later, we witnessed the bloody aftermath of the battle against the Hydra of the 8th floor. On the ground lie the bodies of our hero's companions, who perished in the fight. Tears stream down his face as he mourns the loss of all his friends. Our protagonist, all wounded, recounts that he had instructed everyone to flee, but no one heeded his warning. As he gazes upon his fallen companions, he expresses his disbelief that he had not given them permission to check out. Filled with profound sadness, he calls his companions foolish for sacrificing themselves. A screen appears, revealing that he has been poisoned and that his fatigue is extremely high. The system warns that his fatigue will reach 100, causing the lights to go out. He wonders what people will say in his absence. Fueled by hatred, he turns to the one responsible and demands to know why he did this. The traitor reveals that this was the only way to defeat him, as his friends would have hindered his progress. Meanwhile, the lifeless bodies of the Blue Eyes Guild members lie in the snow. Kazuki exclaims that everything our hero had given him was a torment, which is why he chose the world. Our protagonist remains silent, processing the betrayal of his former friend. The blonde remarks, "It's unfortunate, but the end is near for our wounded hero." With a smile, he presents the ring and declares that he won't have to return it since everyone is destined to perish. The traitor throws the item away and assures the masked man that he will be hailed as a hero. Our hero gives a slight smirk, acknowledging that even at the end, Kazuki only hears what he wants to hear. Our protagonist's hand trembles with weakness, but he refuses to surrender. With that, the blonde turns his back and walks away, leaving the masked man to face his fate alone. Our hero understands that his life is nearing its end, but he refuses to accept his fate without a fight. The traitor is taken aback by his former friend's unwavering determination. Our protagonist then retrieves a legendary dagger called Aololis from his inventory. The blonde is shocked to see that the dagger still has charges, and our hero dismisses him as worthless. With the dagger in hand, our hero smiles and declares that he can use it 4 more times. He then looks back and realizes that only 4 survivors from his guild remain. Our protagonist wields the dagger's power to summon a gust of wind, saving his companions. The powerful wind disperses all the survivors far from the battlefield. Witnessing this, the traitor furiously urges his men to pursue the fugitives immediately. The soldiers of the Miram Alliance rush to capture the members of Blue Eyes, but our hero's dagger glows with an intense purple light as he braces for the impending confrontation. With a sinister grin, our protagonist declares that no one will escape his grasp. He then rises and declares that everyone present will remain and fight alongside him until the very end. The system warns that his fatigue has surged to 90, and his power has a limited duration. Ignoring the warning, he unleashes his ability, and the Lord of Thunder descends upon the battlefield with full force. Kazuki observes the scene with a smirk, calling our hero a persistent nuisance. To endure the pain, our protagonist stabs himself, further increasing his fatigue to 96. He then questions the traitor's promised reward, warning them that they must be prepared to pay with their lives. Our hero declares that from that moment on, no one will leave without his permission. Witnessing the young man's unwavering determination, one of the soldiers becomes desperate about the current situation. With no other choice, the warriors decide to take a chance and charge forward together to attack. An enemy attempts to strike our hero with his spear, but he manages to block the blow. Our protagonist realizes that he would normally not be defeated by these adversaries, but the circumstances are different. With his body at its limit, he knows he must be cautious with every move he makes in the fight. He fears that if the traitor Kazuki decides to attack, the outcome will be drastically different for him. His fatigue increases to 97, and he believes his friends are now far enough away. Realizing that he cannot prolong this fight, an enemy seizes the opportunity to attack him. Even weakened, he manages to block the blow but ends up being pushed back. With the impact, his fatigue skyrockets to 98, and blood begins to trickle from his mouth. Despite staggering from exhaustion, our hero refuses to give up and continues to face the soldiers. In a moment of carelessness, one of the warriors manages to strike our protagonist with a spear. The weapon falls to the ground, covered in blood. However, our hero is not completely defeated yet. The soldier celebrates, believing he has defeated Subaru Narukami, but he is sorely mistaken. With a furious expression, our hero grabs the soldier and demands to know who he claimed to have taken down. Then, a powerful blast of black lightning strikes all the surrounding soldiers, electrocuting them in pain. One by one, the soldiers fall to the ground, completely defeated by the unexpected attack. Our protagonist then removes the dagger he used to keep himself awake and focused. With the battlefield cleared, our hero finally collapses to his knees, exhausted from the fight. The remaining soldiers are in shock, wondering if they have finally defeated the monster. From a distance, the traitor watches the scene and calls his former friend a true monster. The blonde believes that our hero's era has ended in a very simple and pathetic way. Our protagonist's fatigue rises to 99, and the system warns that his end is near. However, he asserts that Kazuki should know better than anyone what he truly is. With great difficulty, our protagonist struggles to get to his feet and continue the fight. Holding an enemy spear in hand, he screams with all his might, declaring victory as his. With that, he hurls the spear with incredible speed towards his main target. The traitor smirks and uses the Archangel's blessing to save himself from the fatal attack. Shocked, the traitor realizes that the ring he thought would save him didn't work as he had expected. The spear hits him square on, and he can't believe it. But our hero declares that he was the one who won. Our protagonist's consciousness drifts into the darkness as he reflects on his final moments. Suddenly, a dreadful odor assaults him, and he realizes he can sense scents. Then, a loud noise from a trash can lid draws his attention back to reality. Our protagonist awakens inside a filthy, smelly alley, in a trash can. He wonders if this dreadful place is the hell that everyone fears. A screen appears, revealing his name as Subaru Hoi, with very weak attributes. At that moment, a sharp headache hits him, and he begins receiving new information. It was the memories of the body's previous owner, who was bullied for being weak and useless. A tear rolls down his eye as he becomes even more confused. He discovers that Subaru Narukami passed away 20 years ago and realizes he's in another body. Desperate, our protagonist wonders if this is all just a crazy dream. He tries to get out of the trash can, but loses his balance and crashes to the ground. Lying on the ground, our hero looks at a nearby tablet, still not comprehending anything. He finds a tablet on the ground and recognizes it as a player's kit. Without wasting time, he uses the device to search for his old guild, Blue Eyes. He discovers that the guild has become the Blue Zone, and the traitor has become the new master. Seeing the traitor's photo, our hero is shocked and wonders how he didn't perish. He then recalls the past and realizes that Kazuki Kaojo wasn't his enemy at the beginning. In a memory, the blonde calls him over to talk and says he's contemplating leaving the guild. Our hero is surprised, and his friend asks him to break the news to the rest of the team. Kazuki says he'll understand the reason eventually, but our hero could only think about their friendship. The blonde reassures him that he would be his shadow and that years later, he created his own guild. That was the Blue Zone, and he wonders why the traitor hasn't made any progress in 20 years. A tear streams down his face as he realizes how much has happened while he was gone. The tablet displays the Subaru Narukami Memorial Hall, leaving our protagonist completely stunned. As he looks ahead, he realizes he's standing in front of his own memorial. With a bead of sweat on his face, he admits that the building is much more impressive than he had imagined. Inside, a giant screen displays his image from the past to a crowd of admirers. Our hero wonders the purpose of everyone remembering him after so much time. He questions who did this and for what reason. He simply can't comprehend the reason for all this homage to him. With a hand on his head, he hears a recording saying that he was an example to everyone. The voice continues calling him the hero of Blue Eyes and the one closest to the top of the tower. It states that, together with his companions, they decided to remember him for all eternity. Our protagonist is in shock and starts to break out in a cold sweat from what he's hearing. The recording then reveals that they established the memorial hall in his honor. Filled with rage, our hero grinds his teeth, already imagining who was responsible. Kazuki's image appears, and our hero screams the traitor's name with all his hatred. The blonde says that Blue Zone is the only guild that inherits the noble spirit of his friend. Furious, our hero tells him to shut up, as if just taking his life wasn't enough. The traitor claims they will never return. But our hero promises that he'll just see about that. Kazuki finishes his fake speech by saying that they will never forget that memory. With a wicked smile, our hero vows that he will rewrite this entire story from scratch. With a determined look, our hero swears he won't let the traitor get away with it again. He then promises himself that he won't waste this second chance he's been given. Suddenly, he bumps into a boy who falls to the ground, grumbling in pain. Our protagonist extends a hand and asks the young man if he's okay after the fall. The boy, completely shocked, looks up at our hero's face. Suddenly, he notices the boy wearing a mask he knows all too well. Two people approach, worriedly asking if the boy named Minato is hurt. Our hero turns pale when he realizes they're also wearing the masks of his old guild. Confused, he can't comprehend what's happening. He runs a hand over his face, trying to process the bizarre situation. Sweat drips down his face as he wonders what's going on. Looking around, he realizes everyone in the hall is wearing the same masks. He recalls the traitor's words, saying it was a shame everything had to end that way. Kazuki had said he shouldn't be sad because he'd be remembered as a great hero. With that, our hero finally understands the traitor's meaning. He whispers the traitor's name with pure hatred in his eyes. He runs through the crowd of masked people, who completely ignore him. In front of him is an altar with his photo, flowers, and candles in his honor. Our protagonist wonders if this is all a sham to steal his guild's glory. Shocked, he can't believe his former friend's nerve. Suddenly, a bright blue light begins to shine from among the flowers on the altar. Our hero notices the strange glow and focuses his gaze on the mysterious light. Without a second thought, he pushes people aside to get closer to the altar. The people get irritated and yell at him to be careful and wait his turn. With all the pushing and shoving, he ends up falling to his knees right in front of the memorial. His hand touches the glowing flowers, and he picks up one. He recognizes the energy of an old teammate. Far away, on top of a building, someone calmly watches the city from above. The hooded man remarks that they managed to survive another year without any incidents. A companion mentions that they narrowly avoided encountering the Blue Zone individuals. The partner questions the necessity of holding this ceremony annually, but Sugar asserts that unforeseen circumstances could arise, and it's better to err on the side of caution. With a smile, he suggests that Subaru might notice the flowers he left as a gift. The partner doubts Subaru's survival, but Sugar admits he hasn't personally witnessed it. The hooded man believes Kazuki is more likely to find them before they find Subaru. He becomes agitated, expressing that if their leader were alive, they wouldn't have wasted 20 years sitting around. The scene transitions to a breathtaking sunset, with birds gracefully flying across the sky. Back to our protagonist. He's breathless, but exudes a sense of hope. He contemplates the possibility of his old companion's survival after all this time. In a secluded spot, he continues to process the possibility of her being alive. As he gazes at the flower in his hand, he firmly whispers Sugar's name. Later, he finds himself in Subaru Hoso's room, observing the simplicity of the space. On the device, he searches for his former guild, but finds no results. Despite this, he remains certain that Sugar survived the massacre. Our protagonist becomes frustrated, thinking she has been in hiding for 20 years. He concludes that Kazuki is the root cause of all their problems. Since he wouldn't reveal the truth, he wonders if Sugar truly survived alone and if the other three also managed to escape. However, he acknowledges that as long as the traitor is alive, attempting to make contact is a suicide mission. Besides, our protagonist feels powerless, and forcing the issue would only put him in danger. Looking at the flower and the mask, he realizes he needs to prioritize something important first. With a determined expression, he resolves to regain his former power. Following Hoso's memories, he retrieves a training sword from the room. 2 days later, the tutorial to become a player finally begins for him. Our hero believes that if he survives this trial, everything will be fine in the end. He holds on to the hope that as long as they are alive, they can meet again at any time. The scene takes us to a large coliseum, which serves as the examination hall for the tutorial. Inside, several bodies are scattered on the floor, indicating the difficulty of the test. A bald-bearded man named Huger observes everything with a serious expression. Nearby, a young warrior is out of breath after defeating several green creatures. The examiner, Huger, looks at the young man and informs him that he passed the test by a hair. Huger asks if the young man wants to try the next step, but he's quite confused by the offer. A screen appears, explaining that with each step, a new goblin appears, and the rewards increase. The warrior refuses on the spot, and Huger fails him, saying that just hearing that gives him a headache. However, the young man insists that the important thing is that he managed to pass the test anyway. The examiner is disappointed because he'll have to let a weakling like that guy pass. He complains that apart from Isaac, who passed stage 20, no one else there looks promising. With a look of contempt, Huger complains that the quality of this year's recruits is terrible. Suddenly, he notices something on his clipboard and looks more closely at the arena. It was our protagonist, Subaru Hosoi, entering the battlefield with his sword in hand. Huger reads the name Subaru Hosoi and comments that it's a name with a lot of weight to carry. He then warns that our hero can only use that name if he manages to pass the test. Our guy agrees, and a screen pops up in front of him to start the challenge. The system then generates 2 goblins, and the mission is simply to defeat the 2 creatures. The examiner prepares to start the tutorial, but is interrupted by a fast-moving blur. Before our hero could even finish his sentence, he had already defeated both monsters. Huger, confused, wondered what had just flown past him. The examiner didn't even blink, and pieces of the monsters were already flying across the arena. Our hero smiled, knowing that testing the limits of this new body for 2 days had been the right decision. He then discovered that the body he woke up in was actually quite exceptional. The screen asked if he wanted to proceed to the next step, and he accepted without hesitation. Seeing the young man's speed, the examiner's jaw dropped, unable to believe the scene. In an instant, another goblin head rolled and stopped right at the examiner's feet. With the arena littered with bodies, Huger wondered what was happening. The examiner watched our hero fight and realized that he wasn't just attacking randomly. With a keen eye, he noticed that our hero wasn't just swinging his sword aimlessly. Instead, he was reading the enemy's movements. 2 or 3 steps ahead, his hand gripped the sword firmly, and he continued the slaughter without stopping. Huger thought that this wasn't just being good with a sword. Not even he could do that. With a confident smile, our protagonist showed that he was in complete control. The examiner then suspected that the young man was the reincarnation of Subaru Narukami himself. With a precise strike, our hero finished off another creature with his sharp sword. He then stopped and faced the last standing goblin before finishing it off as well. A screen appeared, notifying him that he had cleared step 49 and asking about the boss. Even out of breath and sweating, our hero said that since he had come this far, he might as well keep going. Our protagonist was exhausted, but he knew he needed to continue to finish the tutorial. Suddenly, a blue energy started to crack the entire arena floor with full force. From the ground, a giant shadowy hand emerged for our hero's final challenge. The examiner panicked and shouted that he was no Narukami to face that thing. Huger warns him to stop if he wants to survive, but it's too late for warnings. The ground trembles, and the final boss reveals itself to be the Goblin King. Furious about the sacrifices, the Goblin King sees the monster and screams desperately for our hero to give up because fighting is madness. The examiner insists that it's suicide, and the power difference between them is too great. Our hero knows that with his current stats, he won't be able to deal any significant damage. But even so, he tightens his grip on his sword, refusing to back down from the impending battle. Suddenly, our protagonist surprises everyone by dropping his weapon and declaring his refusal. This move panics Sugar, who wonders if the young man has finally lost his mind. The Goblin King charges full speed at our hero, who is now unarmed. At that moment, an object hits the monster's shoulder, catching it off guard during its attack. The beast looks down at its leg and sees a thin needle stuck there, completely confused. A drop of sweat rolls down the Goblin King's face as it remains bewildered by what just happened. It then looks at our protagonist, who is crouched on the ground, picking something up. With a smile, our hero shows off some needles and asks if the creature is surprised. Our hero then proposes a little bet to the final boss of the tutorial. He challenges the monster to see who can defeat the other first in this fight. Our protagonist smiles and completes the challenge, declaring that he's going to turn the monster into a pincushion. With his eyes gleaming, he then throws the needles with impressive speed towards the beast. The Goblin King roars in fury and demands an answer to the challenge he received from the young man. The creature then charges with its mouth wide open, ready to devour our hero in one bite. The monster raises its axe and delivers a powerful blow to crush the boy. With a swift motion, the axe comes down with full force towards our protagonist. Our hero, faster and agile, manages to dodge the attack and throws himself to the side. Crouched on the ground, he observes the monster closely, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Suddenly, a memory from the past flashes in his mind, aiding him in the battle. In a flashback, we see his former self practicing his throwing skills on a tree with a target. The object hits the target dead on, showcasing the precision of his intense training. A woman named Rena scolds him, saying he can't throw like that. With a smile, she says anything can be used as a throwing weapon. She then demonstrates the correct way to hold the object for the attack, explaining that any item becomes a knife if you know its center of gravity. The object hits the target dead on, demonstrating the precision of his training. Back in the present, the needles hit the Goblin King's face, causing him to bleed in pain. From the impact, the creature screams in agony and starts to fall backward, weakened. Our hero explains that the power comes from the spin and the precision from the lack of hesitation. With a serious look, he recalls that it was his old companion, Rina, who taught him everything. He realizes that the poison needles didn't disappear and uses that to his advantage. The examiner is shocked because Huger used both a sword and hidden weapons to win the fight. With a sweat on his face, Huger admits that the young man before him is a true genius. The riddled Goblin King roars in pain but is already very weak from the poison. With that, the monster can't take it anymore and collapses to the ground, completely defeated. Our hero approaches and picks up his sword to deliver the final blow. He says he has nothing against the beast, but needs to finish the tutorial once and for all. With a decisive strike, our hero finishes off the creature, ending the battle for good. The system announces that he has defeated the Goblin King and completed step 50 of the tutorial. Exhausted, our protagonist laments that a monster like that shouldn't be in a tutorial. After a victory, several screens appear, rewarding him with points and a level up. Curious about his 2,425 points, he ventures into the shop, where he finds various inexpensive items. However, he anticipates having many points left over. As he scrolls down, he encounters something astonishing, a nameless demonic sword crafted by kindred. Our hero is taken aback. While tempted by the sword, he's concerned about his limited life force, which is already drained by his lightning ability. Then he discovers the holy sword Miranda, which appears safer. Our protagonist is torn between choosing destructive power or the safety of the other weapon. With a sense of responsibility, he realizes the importance of making a wise decision about his points. Suddenly, he notices something peculiar on the shop screen that piques his interest. He realizes he can still scroll down and explore more items in the shop. Among them, he finds the skill wedge of greed, which can mitigate the adverse effects of items. Our hero understands that this skill can suppress the negative consequences of the sword and his lightning ability. Without hesitation, he purchases the skill and the demonic sword, taking a calculated risk. Huger, observing the young man's choice, expresses his preference for the demonic sword. He praises the decision and acknowledges the compatibility of the items, but he remains puzzled by the choice. The examiner questions why he opted for such a risky and unfamiliar skill. At this point, our hero becomes irritated and demands a detailed explanation. He becomes frustrated with the formal speech required from the supervisor. Seeing his reaction, Huger offers to overlook it, attributing it to the exhaustion of the exam. Our protagonist recalls that the young man from his past has become a supervisor. In a memory, a young, embarrassed Huger approached our hero, requesting an autograph. However, in his past life, our hero had declined, stating he didn't have an autograph to give. The boy persisted, asking him to simply write his name in his notebook. Back in the present, Huger complained about his lack of manners, to which our hero scoffed. Our protagonist refused to answer and requested secrecy regarding the test results. This infuriated the examiner, who vowed to teach the young man some manners. He then invited him to the Chivalry Guild, but our hero declined immediately. A screen appeared, asking if he wanted to go to the second floor, and he accepted without hesitation. With that, our hero disappeared, and Huger desperately yelled for him to wait. Alone, Huger was disappointed with the young man's attitude and sighs, feeling frustrated. Meanwhile, our protagonist finally arrived on the second floor of the Great Tower. He found himself in a bustling place called the Land of Beginnings. As he looked around, he realized he was back in that place after a long time. He knew this was his second chance and couldn't waste this unique opportunity, having lived through all this once before. Our protagonist understood that he had to do everything better. He would do it for his companions, who might be waiting for him, and for his revenge, with his goal in mind.